Good afternoon. The Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police has kicked off Crime Prevention Week in the province.
This annual initiative focuses on community outreach and engagement and includes police services from all across our province. Our Janice Golding has been following the story. She joins us live with more. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, as you've mentioned, it is Crime Prevention Week in our province, and today the campaign kicked off here at York Regional Police Headquarters. Now, this year's theme is called Working Together to Protect Ontario, and it highlights the importance of collaboration between police, residents, businesses, government, and community organizations to enhance safety in our cities and towns. Over the course of the week, police services will focus on 4 key areas, namely preventing violence against individuals, crimes against businesses, outreach to help prevent people from becoming victims of crime, and advocating for justice and bail reform. Police officers also discussed initiatives we can participate to protect our homes and neighborhoods, like York Region's Home Security Camera Registry program.
Now, it does not mean that we have access to your camera or can see what your camera sees. It just allows us to know that at 123 Main Street, a security camera exists. And then if and when a crime happens in and around 123 Main Street, as an example, we know we can reach out to that person who has registered with us, send them a digital link where they can then send us back video footage from their camera from a particular date and time that we've specified to them.
We know that gun violence, carjackings, home invasions are top of mind for many of our residents. That is why our members are working hard to equip our residents, our community members, with knowledge and tools to keep themselves, their families, and their neighborhoods safe and from being victimized.
Crime Prevention Week is held annually, and it's an opportunity for police agencies across Ontario to highlight the work that they are doing in the community in collaboration with community partners to keep communities safe.
A Crime Prevention Week is part of a larger initiative that was launched last year, earmarking November as Community and Crime Prevention Month. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. The SIU is investigating the death of a 19-year-old woman in Essex County. The police watchdog says an OPP officer was driving on County Road 20 near Isla Road just before 4:30 a.m. on Sunday when they struck a pedestrian. The woman was rushed to hospital where she later died. The SIU has assigned 2 investigators, 2 forensic investigators, and a collision reconstructionist to this case.
An investigation is underway following a fire in the city's West End. Emergency crews were called to the Bloor and Indian Road area just east of Parkside Drive. The call came in shortly before 6:30 this morning for reports of smoke coming from the roof of a building. They eventually found flames on the 3rd floor. No injuries have been reported, and so far there's been no word on a possible cause. Meanwhile, one person was taken to hospital with minor injuries following a fire at a high-rise near Wellesley and Rose Avenue. Flames broke out shortly before 7:45 this morning in a 3rd-floor unit. Toronto Fire says the flames spread to a 2nd unit. The cause of this blaze is still under investigation.
And still to come on CTV News at noon, the federal government is set to table its fall budget tomorrow. We'll have more on what's expected in this fiscal update a little later in the newscast. But first, transit providers are facing questions about a lack of service following Game 7 of the World Series Saturday night.
Blue Jay fans have complained they were left stranded following the heartbreaking loss. CTV's Rahim Ladhani has been following this story and joins us live with more. And it was bad enough they lost, Rahim. It's like adding insult to injury.
Hey, Nathan. Yeah, it certainly feels like that, doesn't it? I mean, we're here inside City Hall, and this is where the TTC board is meeting to debrief and investigate what happened with the TTC rollout after Game 7 of the World Series. Whether you were in the downtown core or watching it from the comfort of your home, you can envision just the thousands and thousands of fans and the congestion that comes along with it after everyone let out of Game 7, which ended at around 12:20 a.m., and then started to make their way to different subway platforms, GO train stations, the UP Express. However, everyone's sadness from the game quickly turned into anger and frustration because when they arrived, a lot of them found out they had missed their last train or their last bus, and they were put onto crowded platforms stuffed very tightly because there was no space for everyone. There are a lot of layers to what happened on that night, and one of them is communication. I want you to take a look at this tweet that was sent out by the city that is ruffling a lot of feathers. It says that the game is running late, but transit won't wait. The TTC board is meeting today, and the chair, Jamal Myers, is defending the TTC service for Game 7, saying no one was stranded by the TTC, but he did admit that tweet never should have gone out and that there was a lack of communication and collaboration with Metrolinx. The TTC did extend service by an hour to around 1:30 a.m. It also had a contingency plan to extend service hours and deploy 30 more buses. However, it never activated it, saying the crowds quickly cleared after the game. That decision is also being scrutinized inside the transit board meeting today. As for Metrolinx, which is under provincial control, their service ended earlier. GO trains around 12:30 a.m., the UP Express at 1 a.m. There are videos circulating on social media of people stranded trying to use those services. So far, Metrolinx has only said that they can't operate overnight because they don't own the tracks they run on. However, keep in mind, they have extended hours in the past, for example, on New Year's Eve. So have a listen to what Jamal Myers and Councillor Josh Matlow had to say about the situation.
So we know how to do these types of events. There was just, at least with the TTC, there was a miscommunication on our part. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen again. But we also understand that we want to make sure, regardless of whether people are taking TTC or another transit agency to get home, that everyone can get home safely. So we will be working with our partners at Metrolinx to see how we can better collaborate on providing a better transit service for these late night events.
When you screw up, you own it, and you demonstrate that you're going to do better. I don't think the TTC, Metrolinx, or the City of Toronto did a good job after Game 7. I think that the service should have been proactively expanded and extended into the early morning hours. I believe that the communications should have demonstrated that the city and the TTC, and yes, Metrolinx, has residents' backs, and none of that was done.
So happening now, Jamal Myers and Councillor Josh Matlow has seconded his motion along with Mayor Olivia Chow, and the motion is that's being brought forth is to look into how to provide better predictable late night service for big events. So for things like the World Series, like the upcoming FIFA World Cup, so that everyone in the city knows what kind of transit service they can expect when they come down. As for Metrolinx, we have reached out for comment on the whole situation, and we are still waiting to hear back. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladhani. I'll send it back to you both in studio.
Thank you, Rahim. And there will be early closures on a portion of the TTC's Line 2 this week. Service between Kipling and Islington will end at 11:59 p.m. each night until Friday. The disruption is to accommodate track work. Shuttle buses will run until the end of service at approximately 2 a.m. The TTC says staff will be available to assist customers.
At Queen's Park, Ontario Liberals are trying another way to get to the bottom of the Skills Development Fund scandal. The party filed a complaint with the Integrity Commissioner. This is the second request from opposition parties for the ethics watchdog to weigh in. Ontario's Auditor General has already said the awarding of grants from the fund was not fair, transparent, or accountable, but the Liberals want more answers.
Whether he used his office to benefit donors or friends. So whether he gave that preferential treatment to those donors or friends or to connected applicants, and whether his actions breached the Members' Integrity Act and ultimately broke the law.
The minister has continued to defend himself by defending the fund connecting people with jobs. The Premier has said Piccini has his support.
More news in a moment, but first let's take a live look at the city on this Monday afternoon, and the weather certainly mirroring the collective feelings after the Game 7 extra inning World Series loss from our Blue Jays. It's gloomy, a little bit rainy, a little bit cool. Lindsay Morrison is here with the current conditions. Lindsay.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a blue Monday today, Michelle, as many of us reflect on the weekend and our beloved Blue Jays. But don't worry, the skies will brighten up as this week goes on. We do have some pretty widespread rain right now impacting the GTA, but behind it, drier conditions, just the chance of showers a little later on this afternoon. But perhaps the bigger story today, the winds. Special weather statements in place around Niagara, right around Georgian Bay, and in toward the Kingston area. Warning of 80-kilometer-per-hour wind gusts. The sustained winds alone are pretty strong here in Toronto, gusting to about 50K at this time. So secure any loose items around your home today. It is currently 6 degrees. We've actually dropped a couple of degrees with the arrival of the rain, but we are forecasting a daytime high of 11. We'll take you through what you need to know for the first full week of November coming up. Michelle, for now, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, there is a push for changes to the National Amber Alert system following the disappearance of a 6-year-old boy near the Alberta-British Columbia border. Friends and community members rallied to raise awareness about what's being called Darius's Law, as well as showing support for the young boy and his family. Darius McDougall went missing in the Crow's Nest Pass on September 21st while camping with his family. Search and rescue crews spent 11 days looking for him before calling off the search. Now a petition is asking to reform how missing children's cases are handled in Canada.
I never realized how rigid our Amber Alert criteria is. And so this whole story, you know, it made me privy and made me research that, and I realized there's a dangerous gap in our system and we need to close that gap now.
The online petition has more than 14,000 signatures. Organizers plan to bring the petition to Parliament in Ottawa to get the current law updated. And in Alberta, tensions remains high after the province forced teachers off the picket lines and back into the classroom.
However, some parents remain concerned about the rest of the school year. CTV's Kathy Lee reports.
At this dedicated workspace, 5-year-old Noseba's parents are her educators when at home. Both happy the teacher's strike is over and that she's back in kindergarten.
We are relieved.
But still worried about overcrowded class sizes, an issue that hasn't gone away.
The problem they had is still there. Those problems are not addressed, so that the main concern.
Educators were forced to return to the classroom last week after the government invoked the notwithstanding clause, overriding some rights and freedoms to pass the back to work legislation. The new bill imposes a 4-year contract that teachers overwhelmingly rejected because they say it does not meet the demands in the classroom.
We didn't expect that anybody will force to go back. We expected that both parties will sit down and come in a mutual solution.
The UCP's move sparked a province-wide walkout, with thousands of students leaving class to support their teachers.
They are teachers and give us the education we deserve because this isn't fair.
And it pushed the Alberta Federation of Labour to warn a general strike could be next, but it stopped short of declaring an official one.
Tens or hundreds of thousands of workers all agree to walk off the job at the same time. We are seeing a level of strike activity and organizing activity that we haven't seen since the 1980s.
As the labor dispute continues to unfold, Noseba's parents wondering how their daughter will handle public school if the environment doesn't improve.
I feel my daughter will be very behind.
I probably want my daughter to get some special care, like not too many students in one crowded class.
Until that happens, they're digging deep, paying for some private tutoring to keep her future from falling through the cracks. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
The federal Liberals will put forward their budget tomorrow. It'll be the first fiscal update in nearly a year. Mark Carney's first budget as Prime Minister and the first for his Finance Minister.
The kind of budget that you will remember, because there will be no surprises. Canadians have asked us to build big, bold things. They expect us to do things differently. So we're going to make generational investments that will build our country. We're moving from reliance to resilience, from uncertainty to prosperity.
Francois-Philippe Champagne bought a traditional pre-budget pair of shoes from a Quebec manufacturer this morning. The minister insists there'll be something for every Canadian when the document is tabled tomorrow afternoon. The minority Liberal government will need the support of opposition MPs to pass the budget and avoid an early election. The Conservatives, Bloc Québécois, and NDP have stated what they want to see in exchange for their support. And since the election in the spring, key Canadian industries have taken a sharp hit from the ongoing trade war with the U.S. A weaker economy also means lower revenues for the government. A former assistant parliamentary budget officer says the document will need to focus on investment and growth as Canada struggles amid the trade war.
We're dealing with, industries and workers that are actually struggling under the weight of this. And we're seeing incredibly aggressive industrial policy on the side of the United States. So this government will have to respond.
Meanwhile, new polling shows Canadians are split on what should be the top budget priority. A new Nanos survey finds more Canadians are willing to accept a higher level of spending if it means investing in programs for Canadians. Support for the idea is up to 47%, which remains basically tied with people hoping for a balanced budget that cuts taxes. And CTV's Colton Prale has been following this story and joins us now live from Ottawa. Colton, do you have any idea what Prime Minister Carney's austerity and investment budget will entail tomorrow?
We absolutely do. We know that they have talked a lot about what they're saying are generational investments in infrastructure, housing, and defense. And for some of those, we actually have dollar figures already. There's been a couple pre-budget announcements that have come out since the spring. And if you look at it, you're looking at more than $33 billion in spending. The big ticket items, $13 billion for Build Canada Homes, the federal government's new housing agency, $9 billion in defense spending that's supposed to be spent by next spring. Of course, we have that new 5% NATO target that the Prime Minister has signed Canada up for. But there are also a number of measures included in those pre-budget announcements that weren't planned for, that weren't costed out in the Liberal platform. Things like the $5 billion Strategic Response Fund to deal with tariffs, the smaller $1 billion Regional Response Fund, $3.7 billion in temporary EI supports for workers who have been impacted by the impacts of tariffs or hurt by the impact of tariffs. These are things that the federal government hadn't fully costed out and are going to be additional costs on top of what they expected to spend. On top of that, the revenue that the Liberals thought they were going to bring in through counter tariffs is far, far lower than originally planned for. In the campaign, the Liberals and Conservatives both had it at $20 billion in revenue from counter tariffs. Today, the Finance Department says actually that number's only just over $3 billion. So you're looking at far less revenue, far more spending, and the result of that is likely to be a much bigger deficit. We're talking about moving on from the $40 to $50 billion number that was originally being discussed back in April to something now probably around the range of 70 to potentially even as high as $90 billion. And speaking with economists and former parliamentary budget officers and people of the former PBO, they say that number doesn't necessarily mean the worst for Canada. It's possible to work within it, but it will make things very difficult moving forward, and that whatever you do spend needs to ensure it pays dividends and incentivizes capital investment in the country.
So with that high deficit, how likely is it that they'll get support from the opposition? They'll need it.
This is where things get very, very tricky. To your point, it's a Liberal minority government. They need 3 opposition MPs to vote in favor of this in order to get it passed, and that's with the Speaker of the House of Commons breaking the tie that could potentially exist. Now, that is going to be difficult to do, but that is not the only route to get there. In an interview over the weekend, NDP interim leader Don Davies said that all options were on the table when it came to how the NDP would vote, including, crucially, abstention. And this is something that you could see. If 6 MPs in the House of Commons who are not Liberals do not choose to vote, don't vote yes or no for the federal budget, the Liberals can still pass it. Now, there are 7 NDP MPs in total, so you could either get all of that party or you could gather a few MPs from each of the opposition parties to abstain from this vote in order to make it a little more politically palatable for the parties to say, well, we didn't support it, but Canadians don't find themselves in an election that many of them do not want. The Conservative leader was asked whether he would allow his MPs to do that over the weekend. Here's what he had to say.
We're going to show up and do our jobs to fight for an affordable budget. We'll be there on Tuesday to see what the government puts in. We don't need a higher cost of living through a higher costed budget. We need an affordable budget for affordable lives for all Canadians, and that's what we're going to be fighting for.
And to your point, Nathan, there is one third final option, which would be to collaborate with one of these parties. They're all likely to submit their own amendments to the budget after it's presented in the House of Commons. But doing that is a much more lengthy and tricky process. You're likely to see this federal government try to move through on its own. And it's really one big game of political chicken to see who blinks first.
Yeah, so many different options and scenarios. CTV's Colton Prale in Ottawa. Thank you.
Canada's industry minister appeared before House of Commons committee today, saying the government is launching a dispute process against Stellantis. The automaker recently announced a move to the United States, which will take production out of Brampton.
Let's focus on the facts. What's happening in Brampton at the Stellantis facility is completely unacceptable. Stellantis made a commitment, a promise, to invest in that plant, to invest in Canadian workers. And our government expects them to honor that promise, full stop.
Stellantis has announced plans to move production of its Jeep Compass to Illinois. The company paused production at the Brampton plant in February as a result of U.S. tariffs, and production was originally scheduled to resume later this year. The Ontario government says the automaker has a duty to live up to its promise.
Healthcare is a top priority for many Canadians, and efforts are being made to lure American doctors north of the border.
Now, political turmoil in the U.S. is giving some physicians an extra push to relocate. CTV's Alex Karpa reports.
Dr. Jesse Krikorian recently left Michigan and moved to Manitoba for work. He began seeing patients earlier this month.
I am so grateful to be here in Canada. This is quite an opportunity.
He is a family physician specifically focusing on transgender health care. However, due to the current political climate in the U.S., he said he had no choice but to leave.
I'm concerned with where things are right now with the restrictions in care, and I am especially concerned that things are going to get worse in the U.S.
Dr. Krikorian is not alone. Dozens of other doctors have made the move north of the border.
Canadian and American doctors have very similar training, and so efforts were made to streamline that process, and we applaud that.
The president of Doctors Manitoba, Dr. Nichelle Desilets, said recruitment through targeted ads began last fall. And while it's been a success so far, she said the focus now has to shift to retaining these doctors.
We need to keep looking at things like admin burden, keep looking at things things like competitive payment.
Recruitment is not just happening in Manitoba, but across the country. Ontario recently said over 260 American physicians have moved to that province so far this year. In BC, 38 doctors and 90 nurses were also hired. PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan have all undergone similar campaigns.
I think it will help. It will fill a vital need and is one solution of many to increasing doctors within the country.
Dr. Krikorian believes this is just the beginning of a new wave of physicians coming to Canada.
I have colleagues who have asked me questions about how to make the move to Canada.
He says he plans to stay in Manitoba for as long as he can. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he will not be attending the upcoming Supreme Court arguments, which will decide the legality of his global tariffs.
Without tariffs, without our being able to use tariffs freely, openly, and in every way, we would suffer tremendously from a national security standpoint. The national security of our country is at stake. It's the biggest, I think it's one of the biggest decisions in the history of the Supreme Court.
Starting on Wednesday, America's highest court will begin hearing arguments stemming from a lower court ruling that Trump overstepped his authority when he invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose most of his tariffs. The case will be closely watched in Canada as the country still faces the threat of an additional 10% tariff over Ontario's anti-tariff ad campaign. However, the ruling will not impact tariffs that are already in place on Canadian steel, aluminum, autos, and lumber.
Police in the UK have charged a 32-year-old man with attempted murder following a mass stabbing attack on a train on Saturday. Anthony Williams is facing 10 counts of attempted murder in connection with the attack that injured 11 people. Williams is also charged with attempted murder in a separate incident at a London transit station earlier the same day. Investigators are also looking at other charges, but say they're not treating the incident as an act of terror, and there are no additional suspects.
China has decided to resume group tours for Chinese citizens traveling to Canada just days after Prime Minister Mark Carney met with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This morning, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson stated the decision came after a comprehensive consideration of the travel demands of Chinese citizens. According to the spokesperson, the move is expected to bolster people-to-people exchanges between China and Canada, as well as foster mutual understanding and friendship between the two countries. The announcement ends a prolonged freeze, which began during the COVID-19 pandemic that left Canada off China's outbound tour list, even as group travel resumed to more than 130 other destinations. Lindsay.
So the clocks went back over the weekend. You may have noticed some brighter mornings, but also a bit of a darker evening last night. That's going to be the norm from now on. Here's a look at today's sunrise and sunset times. The sun going to set tonight at 5:05 p.m. Just want to mention, too, that with the clocks changing, that's also a good opportunity to maybe change the batteries in your smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. Here's our evening at a glance. We will say goodbye to the rain impacting us right now, but it will continue continue to be windy. Tomorrow, the sun will be back out. We'll talk about that and the rest of your 7-day forecast after the break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
November is underway, but many people are already looking ahead to Christmas. Yes, Halloween is long gone. A 55-foot tall tree was dropped in the Distillery district this morning as the location prepares to open its annual Winter Village. And for more, we're joined live by CTV's Jessica Smith, taking it all in. Moving on to Christmas, Jess.
Listen, we're already in the holiday spirit. You know when you're shopping for Halloween decorations, so Christmas stuff is already out. They've already been in the Christmas spirit here at the Distillery District. Joined by Rick, we were together last year talking about all things holiday, but I want to ask you, when it comes to this tree, does it really just kind of help put everybody into the spirit of the holiday season as we get ready to head into November, December, and the holidays?
How can it not? 55 feet of silver fir that just screams Christmas. Obviously, it's in its unwrapping phase right now, but pretty soon, 80,000 lights, you know, hundreds of ornaments, a beautiful new stage that is part of this tree build. We're excited.
So when it comes to this tree, where do you find something like this? Because I feel like depending on where you go in our province, we have big, beautiful trees, but where do you find something like this?
Yeah, this is a homegrown tree. This is right here in Ontario from Mono Township, about an hour north of Toronto. And so really, there's a whole tree farm. We use Drysdale Farms, and they come down every year. They find this tree. We know we already have the next 2 trees already chosen and in order. And then after that, we're going to have to start doing a little more searching.
Now, I know things officially begin next week, but what can people expect from the Winter Village this year? Every year there's something a little bit fun. They're so inviting for the community, but what can we expect in 2025?
I mean, this year is super fantastic. What we have going, so we launched Thursday, November 13. Come on down, 6 o'clock. Santa's going to be here. He's going to light the tree. We do the first songs of Christmas. We've got the tenors are here performing on stage for that. And then after that, we run right through till January the 4th. With live programming. We've got everything from Mendelssohn Choir, Canadian Opera, Mirvish, the Myriad Choir. We've got story time with the elves at 1 o'clock every day. We've got Katie and Toby for the toddlers, big on YouTube apparently. And all of these fun things. Narnia is playing over at the Soul Pepper Theatre. Lots of programming, lots of shows, and of course all the food and drinks. You know, special bars. We have 9 outdoor bars. We've got 47 outdoor vendors here. Most of them are food, flavors from all over the world, representing Toronto.
Listen. And a partridge in a pear tree. Well, yeah. Rick, thank you so much. We'll have more on this as we get closer to Christmas. We'll send things back inside. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Yeah.
Very true. Thank you, Jess. All right, to the forecast, but first, any final thoughts? You want to move on, or do you want to give it like a nice little
There's just
recap?
such a collective pain. And I think it was so shocking that the Jays, you know, they were just so close. But I think what crushed me the most, besides, you know, seeing children crying on TV, but you feel bad for the players because they worked so hard and they wanted it so bad, and they deserved to win that game.
It was a great game, 11 innings, one of the best games ever. It would have been nice if we'd won that game. But I'd have to say this, they're a young team. The Clements and the Bargers and the Vladdies, they're not even in their prime yet. So next year.
Oh, there's always next year, right? Have we said this before about Toronto teams, or what's going on? Yeah, I mean, thank you to the Blue Jays for this run, and it brought us a lot of excitement, when you say, last in a while.
It sure did. Yeah.
I think everyone at home agrees. And so today we're going to do our best to pull up our socks and carry on. Weather-wise, we have some wet weather that we're dealing with right now, some very gusty winds too. But as the week goes on, improvements come. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Even though we do have a fair amount of cloud cover out there, we did have an interesting-looking sunrise this morning. There it is over Lake Ontario. Of course, the sun rising a little earlier today thanks to the time change. I appreciated the brighter morning. I don't know about you. Let's all remind ourselves to take extra care on the roads this evening as it gets a bit darker around 5 p.m. Can be a little extra dangerous for pedestrians out there. So if everyone does their part to be visible and to be watching out for each other, hopefully we'll all be okay. Here's a look at the special weather statement, once again, that we are dealing with around Georgian Bay in portions of Niagara, north of Lake Erie, and over toward Prince Edward County. This is where wind gusts could be around 80 kilometers per hour today. We're already experiencing some very strong gusts. They're going to start to ease somewhat as we make our way into the day tomorrow. But when you see those reds and purples on this map, you know that it's a windy day. Couple that with the wet weather, and it's one of those days where your umbrella, you might need to hold on a little tightly to it through the afternoon. But again, as the hours go by, things will start to dry out. We do, however, get into some lake effect rain thanks to those winds off of the Great Lakes. Here's how that plays out. And I have to just acknowledge the fact that we had some snow in parts of eastern central Ontario on Halloween. So we've already had a taste of winter, and now we're getting what can sometimes be referred to as the witches of November. And these are the very strong winds moving over the Great Lakes. So there's a little bit of lake effect rain beginning as early as this evening, continuing into tomorrow also. And some cloud cover does increase after some sunshine for tomorrow. Wednesday is another rainy day, so just be mindful of that. We're flip-flopping back and forth a little bit over the next few days here as far as conditions are concerned. It's 7 degrees right now. Our forecast high today is 11. Here's a look at our almanac. Seasonal high is about 9 degrees now. You'll notice that we are warmer than that for the next couple of days. Even overnight tonight, 4 degrees is not so bad. 13 for the high tomorrow. Quick little snapshot of what we can expect right across Ontario when it comes to daytime highs tomorrow. We'll take the double-digit highs while we can get them. 7-day forecast does show a high of only 9 degrees by about Thursday with some sunshine, and then a bit of an unsettled weekend with certainly cooler conditions by Saturday. That's your look at the weather for now. Michelle, back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And still to come on CTV News at noon, a new study looking at the difference in longevity between men and women. We'll have those details when we return. We already know social media doesn't necessarily bring out the best in people, and now a new study suggests all that flattery we're getting from AI might be making us worse people as well.
For more, we're joined by CTV science and tech specialist Dan Riskin. So, Dan, what is the concern here?
I thought you were going to say, for more, we're joined by the worst of all people, somebody who spends way too much time with AI, Dan Riskin. Yeah, this is, the concern is that when you have people around you that are always telling you you're right, it doesn't bring out the best in a person. Like, we see celebrities like this all the time, like Tom Cruise jumping on the couch. Clearly the reflection of having a bunch of people around him for decades who tell him every idea is a good one, and no friend that says that's not a good idea. AI tells you all your ideas are good. And so for this study, they went to a place on the internet called part of Reddit, where people write in and they say, hey, I did this thing, and am I the jerk, or are people being jerks to me? And they picked a bunch of stories from that where every human was united in agreeing that the person was the jerk, that they were in the wrong. Then they showed it to AI and said, what do you think? And AI, more than 50% of the time, says, no, they're good, they're right. And when they show those different sort of reviews of the behavior to people, it changes how people perceive them. So that people are less likely to think they're in the wrong. They're less likely to make amends if they see something differently from someone else. And so the fear is that people who are using AI as part of their social group, these virtual friends, are becoming a little harder to get along with because they don't have that friend that's going to say, I don't know if that's such a good idea.
Oh, goodness. It's important we know these things, at least going in when you're using AI, to understand that they're probably going to be flattering you and it's not real.
I highly recommend if you play with AI, write a really dumb idea and say, what do you think of this idea? Like, I'm going to make a balloon out of bricks or something that makes no sense. And just watch. It'll think you have a great idea.
Okay, so there's one thing that I think as a society, we've all kind of know that women tend to live longer than men.
Yes.
And there's a new study that suggests human nature isn't the cause here. Give us the insight.
So I always thought it was because, men are idiots, right? Like, we're so dumb. We're always showing off to girls and doing stupid, like, watch, hold my beer while I do this jump off a cliff or whatever. But it turns out if you look at the evolutionary roots of this business of women living longer than men, it's bigger than just humans. It's all mammals. It's across mammals. Males tend to die about 12%. The women live 12% longer than males do. And if you look at birds, it's the reverse. And so this new paper looks at some different explanations. They think it might be partly genetics, partly male-male competition. But a really interesting piece of it, and I like this, is the idea that evolution protects the sex that usually looks after the children. So in humans, for example, women more often are the one looking after the offspring. So evolution takes better care of the women because there's more of an investment there to protect those babies.
They're more needed.
Yeah.
All right. Makes sense.
I'm feeling pretty good here.
I know. Men are dumb.
And we're dumb.
Finally, we all, I guess, when you're cooking, you might cut onions and your eyes start to water up. But science offers two solutions. What are they?
Well, the first solution is don't cut so fast, cut a little bit more slowly. And the second is get a sharper knife. It turns out that there's this chemical called propanethyl S oxide that is in the onions. And when you push down with your knife, the onion gets loaded like a spring until the cut starts, and then it sort of springs back up and all this fluid comes flying into the air. As that fluid flies up, here's a nice video of it. You can see how much juice comes out of there. That's the chemical. It's tiny, tiny, tiny droplets, but when they get in your eye, that's why you cry. And so if you go a little bit slower on the cuts, you can reduce the amount of spray 4 times over cutting really fast. But the bigger difference is the knife. If your knife is sharp, you can have, if your knife is dull, you can have 40 times more spray than if you have a sharp knife. So the big difference is your knife. Sharpen your knife and you'll cry less.
Wow, science.
Unless it's too sharp and you cut your finger, then you might cry for that reason.
Wow, science tells us everything. Helping us in the kitchen. CTV's science and tech expert, Dan Riskin. Have a great day. Have a great week.
Too. Thanks.
Still to come, Blue Jays fans are looking to the future following the end of the 2025 season. We'll have more on the online reaction to the team's World Series loss when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Well, the Blue Jays season came to an end in heartbreaking fashion on Saturday, and fans are sharing their thoughts online about the epic 2025 campaign. For more, we're joined live by Sam East, host with 99.9 Virgin Radio, for our regular Monday segment, Chronically Online. Sam, I wish we were talking about a parade today and a World Series win. I think there's a collective malaise that's just taken over the city and the country. It's really hard to accept that this is what happened.
Yeah, a collective grief, a collective mourning, and I know you were on site, so you got firsthand account. But let's not discredit what our Blue Jays gave us in this 2025 season. You and I specifically have been running back all of the online reaction for months now at this point. And you know, goes without saying, it was very emotional. The Blue Jays put out this statement, which of course got thousands and thousands of responses. It was a magical ride with all of you. Our city, our home, our fans showed up on the grand stage, and we couldn't be prouder. And you know, a lot of the sentiment online, Michelle, is that this was a team of friends. There was a lot of camaraderie, a lot of heart, a lot of emotion between them. And this clip in particular from Ernie Clement has made the rounds online. Listen to this.
I've been crying for like probably an hour, so I thought I was done with the tears, but I just love these guys so much. It was so much fun coming to work every day and, you know, battling with these guys, and we have so much to be proud of, even though, you know, it didn't go our way. All I care about is just hanging with these guys for, you know, another couple hours.
Oh, yeah. That clip got me for sure. It was so fun to watch Clement out there on the field, but really all of them. I do think, Sam, that this country fell in love with this team.
Yes, and a lot of the sentiment has been, whether you were a diehard fan that was in it from the beginning, or maybe you were more of a bandwagon fan, it was baseball, yes, at its core, but it was bigger than that. It was a moment for our city and for our country. And as you know, it coincided with Halloween, and that did not stop people from getting the best of both worlds. Check out this clip here. A couple guys doing their trick-or-treating parental duties while lugging around some TVs so that they don't miss the game. That is the commitment right there to this moment, and I think that about sums it up, right?
Oh, it totally does. I actually had a Halloween party on Saturday, which I didn't attend at the beginning, and yeah, it was like a Halloween slash World Series party, and you know, it was scary in both ways, I guess, in the end. Sam,
yeah, very spooky.
Before I let you go, now that we're into November, we're talking holiday season, and Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You has returned to the radio. I'm sure you know more than most.
Oh, goodness, yes. I mean, it is a tradition at this point. This song came out in 1994, so it's really stood the test of time. But, of course, in Mariah fashion, she had to make a statement. This is what she had to say.
Halloween slayed, but now it's time. Can we not?
Oh, goodness. I think, how do we feel about the song? It's a great song, so I don't care as much having this play all the time as I do about, you know, like pumpkin spice is to Thanksgiving, you know? It's, hey, here we go.
I mean, I think it's also a pop hit, right? Like, it has all the elements of a perfect earworm, and that's why it's stood the test of time over 30 years now at this point. For reference, this song has been on the Billboard Hot 100 almost more than any song. Forget Christmas, just in general. And every year it sneaks its way back onto the top 10 of the Hot 100. So whether you can't wait to hear Mariah hitting those high whistle notes or you're over it, it's time to maybe mentally accept that it's here to stay for yet another year.
Mariah Carey's the queen. Man, could she hit those notes. Sam East, we really appreciate it. You can check out Sam on 99 on Virgin Radio from 2 to 5 on weekdays. Have a great show today.
Thank you, Michelle.
Take care.
Well, whether it was the World Series, Halloween, or a lack of major debuts, it was reportedly the slowest weekend of the year at the box office.
I thought we would be one big happy family forever. But the universe had other plans.
I'm very sorry.
Colleen Hoover's Regretting You managed to bring in $8.1 million to claim the #1 spot. It beat out Black Phone 2, which was just behind at $8 million U.S. across North America. Last weekend's #1, The Chainsaw Man movie, was in third with about $6 million. It followed the slowest October for ticket sales since 1997.
And coming up, the world came to Ottawa this weekend. We'll have more on the annual One World Bazaar when we return.
Maple Leafs will be looking for back-to-back wins when they face off against the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight.
That shot cuts down Forster. Forster shaking up on the play. That'll leave a mark, and Matthews scores! Austin Matthews!
The Leafs are coming off a 5-2 win over the Flyers Saturday. Puck drop for tonight's game against the Penguins is set for 7:30 at Scotiabank Arena. An annual marketplace returned to Ottawa this weekend, offering shoppers a chance to buy items from across the globe.
CTV's Camille Wilson has more on the One World Bazaar.
Tony Hahn and Zaina Elhara are on a mission to grab some great finds.
We're renovating our kitchen, so we're just looking for unique things here and there to put on the shelves.
The pair are no strangers to the One World Bazaar, the fall pop-up that lasts only 10 weekends in the city.
We usually come here every year. It's a nice Sunday afternoon sort of date thing to do.
A heritage barn packed with homemade goods, colors, textures from clothing, jewelry, dishes, home decor, and furniture. Operating for 44 years, 22 in Ottawa, the owners believe in the beauty of seeing raw materials come to life in the hands of artisans who have honed their traditional crafts.
We poke around and look at all the beautiful and interesting artisan work from all around the world.
Items flying in from different corners of the globe, like South America, Africa, Asia, and like this piece, Indonesia.
Our business model is overstimulate people when they walk in the door. I think people just want something different, want some uniqueness in their homes, in their wardrobes, for them from a jewelry perspective. And I think we've done a really great job of making it a unique experience.
Balker, her husband, and mom shop the world for you, going to different countries, working directly with the artisans, bringing the goods back to Ottawa. And for first-timers, it can be overwhelming.
First time checking out the market. It's cool to see all the handcrafted goods here.
I was just stopping at this area because I was looking for my grandchildren, and it's so colorful. I thought, what am I going to get for my grandchildren? And I might just find something here because there's lots to find and lots to see, and I think my whole family would like it.
Looks like Tony and Zaina were able to grab something unique to take home.
It's just one of those things that if you live in Ottawa, you got to make sure you do it every fall because it's just a wonderful place.
Camille Wilson, CTV News.
And here in the city, unsettled this afternoon, and there's some wind in the mix.
The wind is, I think, the even bigger story today compared to the rain. The rain is going to taper off as we make our way through the afternoon, or at the very least, it will become lighter. But those winds are going to be howling right into the evening hours. They're coming out of the southwest, so that could bump up our temperature a little bit. Here's a look at what you can expect as we make our way into the overnight hours. So drier, still windy. We're going to tap into a bit more of a westerly wind this time around, and you can expect it to be another breezy day tomorrow, just probably not as strong, those winds, as they are today. Tomorrow's high around, 13 degrees. That's nice and comfortable. Lots of sunshine as well. So let's go ahead and call Tuesday a pretty nice day. You'll notice how the conditions flip-flop a little bit back and forth as we progress through this week. So Wednesday back into periods of rain, still mild. Thursday is going to be a little bit cooler with a mix of sun and cloud. And then at this point, it's looking as though the weekend could be just a little unsettled. Friday, especially, the chance of showers, mostly cloudy skies through the weekend. And I'm noticing a bit of a cool down into the day on Saturday, not just with the overnight low into Sunday, below freezing possibly, Nathan and Michelle, but the daytime highs also in the single digits. But that's where we expect them to be at this point in the month of November. Back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And that's CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.